In today's world, where a great proportion of people live in cities, the journey food takes from farm to table can be a long one. Everyone along the supply chain needs good working practices to keep food safe right to the end. In the final part of this program, we'll concentrate on the business of food service, where a large amount of manual handling takes place. Think about taking action in 3 areas: personal hygiene, good food handling practice from store to table, and cleaning. Personal hygiene involves the whole person. The clothes you wear should not only be clean, they should also cover the body, from enclosed shoes to a covered head. Gloves must be used whenever ready-to-eat foods are being handled. Any foods that will not be cooked before being eaten, such as salads and raw vegetables, should only be handled with gloves on. Any cuts or wounds should be covered with a coloured bandage and always with disposable gloves. Hair must be tied back and suitably covered to avoid loose hair falling into food. Remove any jewellery other than plain bands or studs, as it may carry dirt and bacteria. Wear protective clothing such as an apron or chef's uniform, and be particularly careful of loose items like pens that might fall into food being prepared. If pens must be carried, use specially designed pockets, otherwise place them beneath the outer garment. Alternatively, keep them only on the lower half of the body. Our bodies can be the source of many disease-causing bacteria, and cross-contamination can occur at any time. You must get into the habit of washing your hands whenever there's a risk. Ideally, hands should be washed under an automatic or foot-operated tap for 30 seconds. A handy way to know how long this is to sing Happy Birthday through twice. Wash with warm water and soap. And you should include not only hands, but wrists and forearms if you're wearing short sleeves. Always dry your hands with paper towel or air dryer, because contact with the soiled hand towel can replace all the bacteria just washed away. Wash your hands before commencing work, before handling food, between handling raw and cooked foods, after going to the toilet, after eating, after smoking, after sneezing, coughing or blowing your nose, and even after touching your face or hair. Good working practice starts even before the food arrives in the fridge or storage area. Check all food that arrives in your establishment, just as you would if you were choosing it yourself from the butcher, grocer or supermarket. Simple things like use-by dates on canned and processed foods, and checking that meat is free from odd smells and colours. Watch out for processed meats like beef mince, which can in fact be more susceptible to contamination than unprocessed meat because of the additional handling it's had along the way. Always check your food sources and be prepared to question or reject supplies if anything appears suspicious, especially with foods requiring refrigeration. When storing food, whether in the fridge or on the shelf, use a first-in, first-out system to maintain the best use of your entire supplies. Make sure cooked and raw foods are kept apart. As a rule, always put cooked food above raw food so that drips do not cause cross-contamination. Ask yourself, what's between this food and someone's mouth? Food that's ready to eat, like salad or cooked meat, has no final chance to have any bacteria removed before someone takes a bite. This is especially true of high-risk foods like meat, seafood, eggs and dairy products, but it applies equally to salads and foods eaten raw. Always wash salads thoroughly, especially in places where hidden dirt and bacteria may be trapped. During food preparation, be aware that unused pots and trays can gather food scraps and dirt. Always store them upside down to remain as clean as possible. Work quickly with food in the temperature danger zone, putting any food that is not ready to be cooked or eaten back into the fridge straight away. Remember, the danger zone is anything between 5 and 60 degrees Celsius, when bacteria multiply at their fastest rate. Cook thoroughly, making sure food is cooked right to the centre, particularly when using a microwave oven. Check the core temperature with a probe thermometer. It must reach at least 75 degrees Celsius. To avoid cross-contamination, use different utensils for different foods and dishes. When reheating leftovers, be even more thorough. This is food that's spending its second period of time in the danger zone. With food that's to be used in a hot display, ensure the trays are preheated to 60 degrees or more. Foods to be cooled should be cooled at room temperature for no more than an hour, then reduced to less than 5 degrees Celsius within 2 hours. If a pot is over 10 litres, decant into trays. The larger surface area promotes cooling. Remember to cover properly before putting it into the fridge. When it comes to thawing food, defrost in the fridge or cool room for 24 hours only. This will take much longer than thawing at room temperature, so you need to plan ahead. If you need to thaw rapidly, use a microwave oven, but be careful about uneven defrosting and be aware that parts might already be cooked while the middle is still frozen. You must always be ready to use food as soon as it's been thawed. Always keep in mind the 2-4 rule, which goes like this. High-risk foods that have been in the temperature danger zone for 4 hours or more must be discarded. High-risk foods that have been in the temperature danger zone for 2 hours can be refrigerated and then returned to the temperature danger zone for another 2 hours maximum. And finally, when high-risk foods have been in the temperature danger zone for 2 hours, it must be cooked or eaten within the next 2 hours or thrown out. When cleaning equipment and surfaces around the kitchen, be as thorough as when handling food directly. Wash pots and pans by firstly cleaning off food scraps, scrubbing with detergent, rinsing and then sanitising. Clean all areas of the kitchen, especially the areas that can't be seen. Mop the floor regularly and often. Plan your entire cleaning regime and do it regularly throughout the day, not just at the end of the day when you're tired and ready to go home. The plan should also include big items like cleaning out and washing down the fridge on Thursdays, for example. Check under benches for any evidence of pests like rats or mice. Your kitchen should have a pest control regime in place that stays out of the way of general activity but remains in the traffic for rodents and insects. Remove rubbish regularly. Even outside the kitchen, ensure that rubbish is sealed in plastic bin liners so that animals, insects and vermin can't get into it. We've looked specifically at personal hygiene, good working and cleaning practice in a large restaurant kitchen, but the basic principles apply to food handling at all points in the food chain. Being organised about the way we handle food is vital, especially for those in food-related industries. A quality control regime called HACCP has now become an international standard and indicator of good food handling practices. HACCP, which stands for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points, was introduced in the 1960s in the United States, originally designed for astronauts preparing for space missions. It's a self-regulating system based on identifying the key areas that food poisoning is likely to occur and how to modify procedures to ensure that risks are reduced to acceptable levels. Personal hygiene, good work practices and cleaning methods are important for a safe environment. Wherever you are in the food chain, identifying the weak spots is like having a good battle plan in the war on food poisoning. Safety in food handling is not optional, it's vital. Take action to ensure that you're practicing safe food handling. This program emphasised tips for the food service industry, but the principles apply to all areas of food handling. Personal hygiene involves the whole person, from head to toe. Using gloves for ready-to-eat foods, covering hair appropriately, covering injuries appropriately, or staying home when you're ill. Avoiding loose items that might fall into food, and washing hands thoroughly at every risk of cross-contamination. Good practice of food handling from store to table includes thorough receiving and storing food, the first in, first out principle, washing foods properly, keeping ready-to-eat and not ready foods apart, keeping pots and pans upside down, minimising time that food spends in the temperature danger zone when cooling and thawing foods, and remembering the 2-4 rule. Cleaning should be part of the whole food handling process, planned right down to pest control measures.